Hello again. We are back on Gelvin Valley, continuing the harvest. I'm excited because we're finally under 15,000 in the hole. But I'm not excited about this bar at the top of my screen. But I still don't know what's causing that. There it went away. Oh well. Kind of waiting on my combine here to get through the field. We have this one little field to finish up here. Actually, let me go help him out. He's going to probably take the long way around here. I'm going to try to steer him in the right way by making this corner for him. Handy little hillside combine that needs a bath. But whether it's a little combine or a big one or an old one that maybe like this is, 6 miles an hour no matter what. Pretty good, I suppose. He's still sitting here waiting. Off in the east, or excuse me, the west, I think that's... Well, now, wait a minute. You know, I am looking towards the east, but the sun should be setting over here in the west. So, interesting. I guess the sky is starting to turn a little pink over here too. I was just noticing a little bit ago that it was turning color over here, and I was saying, oh nice, I get to see the sunset. Now I realize I was looking east. That would be the sunrise, except it's 5:46 in the evening, it appears. We are still harvesting. You know, all the fields that I've harvested in these videos have all taken place on a single day. Usually when I play, I run it real time, like I'm doing right now, except I screwed up, I think, one of my previous videos and accidentally hit a key that advanced time a little quicker. And I do have 2 more fields, so I don't know if I'll be able to finish the harvest all in a single day. Probably not. But that's kind of the goal. Only sticking his pipe out, so that must mean he's ready for some business. Well, it was. I think I can. Come on! Get up there. There we go. Oh boy, that's close. Almost ready for another load to offload him. You know, at some point, I know I've mentioned on these videos before, the game has, or this particular map has the soil mod built in as a feature. So, but I've never played the soil mod. I'd like to learn it, I think, at some point. Oh, the combine, it's gonna be confused. So I'll just start him here at the corner. We'll just take it the way it should be took. I've looked at a couple videos on YouTube on how to work with the soil mod, but it's pretty intimidating, at least to me. And if anyone's aware of a good video on how to learn how to use it, the you know, soil mod for dummies or whatever it'd be called, I'd be interested. Oh, why did I turn the bell? In his way. All I need is a lousy 25 liters. I bet he'll give them to me here. Yep, there we go. Off we go. And at some point, maybe on a video, I can share what kinds of mods I'm using in the map. That's always of interest to me. It's fascinating to see what kinds of mods different people like having or using in game. I know there's some people that are really into pickup trucks. I personally am not a truck person, or just trucks period. You know, maybe there's a Kenworth or a Peterbilt or Mack or something, some kind of truck that they just gotta have and is all decked out with the latest trimmings. And I'm not that kind of a truck person either, although I'll use them in game. I mean, they're a functional value, of course. Then there's tractor people, certain brands that they really like to have. There's a number of players that play who are a lot into logging, so they don't even do farming in here. They have a lot of logging, tree cutting type mods and that sort of thing. And I get some of those. I enjoy logging when I don't have farming to do in here. But it's just interesting to me to see what kinds of mods people download and use in game, and probably all of us have more mods in the folder than we actually use in game. I mean, I know I do, at least in terms of equipment or that kind of thing. And right now I have a bunch of different placeable type mods sitting in the folder, and I guess I haven't used them yet because they cost money. So if I want to use them and put them down, I gotta have the capital to be able to do it, and I just don't at the moment. But at some point we can look at those. I've always said my favorite kind of mods has always been the maps, hands down. And I haven't played a lot of maps, but I mean, I guess to me this is the world that we're playing in. So that is the most critical part. It's what we visually see. It's the aesthetics of, you know, what we get to work in. I say work, what we get to play in. So to me, that's top of the list. And I admire mappers and their dedication to it and the stick-to-itiveness they gotta have, because there's just a billion details you have to pull together to have a really good map. And there are some poor maps out there too, but to me these are the tops. But then I would say probably second is scripts. I love scripts. You know, I've written a few Lua scripts. That's kind of what I mean by scripts, is the Lua, where you can modify some aspect of gameplay. You know, if you want to make it so you can run the combine in a hailstorm, well, I mean, you can set up a script that would allow you to do it. That's just kind of a silly little example, but I really enjoy the scripts. You know, it's kind of like mentioning the soil mod. I mean, that's not only a script, it is scripts, plural. I don't know how many Decker had in there, Decker's the modder, to be able to pull all that off. And it's more than scripts. I mean, there's other things that come with it too. The GPS mod that I was using a little bit ago, or in a previous video, that's a script. You know, there's any number of scripts. The map that we're in has scripts embedded in it to handle certain things. You know, I think one of the scripts, or maybe a couple of the scripts, you know, which I haven't made use of yet. You know, if you want to raise beef cattle or pigs or that kind of thing, there's a whole separate script that some modder made, you know, that allows those features to function in here. I know there's a script out there that works for chickens too, if you want to have a whole mess of them versus a few of them kind of clucking about the yard. Pretty sure there's one available for that. I know there's a contingent of players too that are really interested, like I mentioned, in logging, but also mining. I've come across a fair number of folks who really get into that part of it, or construction type aspects of work. And, being that the game is designed for farming, it's maybe a little difficult for those kinds of things. But I know for the mining, with a script and setting some things up, you can create a trigger that if you dig with something in a certain spot, you'll fill up your excavator bucket with material or something, which you can then empty in a trailer or whatever, and work with the material. So I know it can be done. It just takes some creative work in a map so that you have areas to do your mining or building of things. Even constructing a building, there's been some really creative mods sometimes, and it's a piece of work to put it up, but with delivery of materials to a location, you can literally create a mod that would build a house in front of you, or some kind of building, if you will, that eventually could even be functional, and it wasn't there before you gave it the materials to build it. I think I've seen more of those kind of come in later versions of Farming Sim, but there may have been some in Farm Sim 15, I just don't recall. I think I mentioned in one of the videos this mod called Sky Swap. I made that mod for Farm Sim 17, and then when I kind of went retro and came back to 15, I wanted to have it with me, so I backward adapted it to Farm Sim 15. I don't plan on releasing it. I mean, it would take so much work to try to polish it up and get it all ready for a different version of the game, and it's more work than I think I'd like to do, so I think I'll just let it go. It at least works for me with what I want to do with it in game here, so that's the main thing. I wonder if we can get the rest of this in a single trailer. Maybe? I hope. I'll maybe try to hop in the combine to help speed things up a little bit. He always takes his time turning the corners. Kind of how it is. There's another script mod I have in here that really could activate at any time in a destructive way. Another one I made in Farm Sim 17 is called Hail Damage, and it doesn't hail very often in the game. I don't know that I remember any hail in Farm Sim 15. I know it's capable of doing it because I had to test it a little bit to see, but basically when it hails, it's gonna do damage to the fields, and if you have a standing crop that you're harvesting, kind of like we're doing right now, well, the hail could come along and pummel it into the ground, and you wouldn't even get to harvest it. So there's so many things that happen in the player's favor in this game. I kind of wanted to have one that had a little destructive import, if you will. But I gotta say, having suffered through it a time or two, it it's a pain in the neck. We're able to turn on this auto harvester, if you will, or auto combine, and it dutifully goes around the field doing what it does. But what's a pain is when it makes all these pockmarks in your field, all these blotches of areas where you're not allowed to harvest it. Well, now you try to put auto combine on that, and it doesn't know what to do. It it'll try to go around all those blotch marks instead of around the field, so it kind of makes harvesting a little more cumbersome. Another script I have is follow me in here. Decker also made that one, so I'm going to use it on the combine. I'm going to follow the combine here. I'll get my beacons on, and we're going to head to the next field, which happens to be number 22. Which is gonna be, well, maybe it won't be too bad. I guess we can sell stuff out of there. Go down to the farm shop. But for the moment, we'll get out of here. That's the pain of these smaller fields, is it means there's more travel in between fields, or travel time, more downtime, if you will. Instead of harvesting, you're farming the road. Oh good, my tractor's following. Let's see if we can make it up there all in one piece. Yeah, when I worked on the farm, we weren't on the road a huge amount. A lot of the ground that my uncles had at Lone Oak was contiguous or kind of all in one area. So you can go just one field to the next. And farm machinery, as a general rule, isn't really designed to be on the road all that much. You kind of only go out there on it if you have to get from one field to the next. But well, it was always a chore. You do the best you can out there, and no matter how much you try, you're not able to go any faster than you're able to go, which on the machines that we had, I think they topped out at 20, maybe 25 miles an hour. So you're not moving very quick. This isn't like the JCB, which I understand moves right along. But it was slow, and the machines were big, and a lot of times there wasn't areas you could just pull over easily and let somebody go by. So yeah, you could encounter some unfriendly, unhappy people because they were forced to wait a little bit. And I guess if I've learned anything, it's taught me to have a little patience whenever I'm on the road in my car and need to go somewhere and there's farm machinery trying to do what they need to do. Then again, if you're out in the country, a lot of times there isn't as much traffic out there anyway, so, and the traffic that is out there, a lot of times they're used to it, so they are a little bit more patient. But but I know the neighbor farmer that I worked for one summer, he had ground that was closer to town and more urban area, and that was a little more challenging, we'll just say. Actually, it made me think of a story. Combining for him, he had this little field. Oh goodness, maybe it was 15 acres total. Not a huge one. On one side of it was his farm home place, kind of one end of it. And then along the road, which on the far side of the field, if you will, there was a line of houses right next to the field. There was a fence, between the houses and the field, and some of them had some hedgerows were up, primarily arborvitae, that kind of thing. Well, anyway, I was out in this field combining, and this particular one, like I mentioned before, the grass was windrowed, and the combine had a belt pickup that picked up the windrow. And so in order to pick up material and combine it, you had to follow the windrow. So this particular field was windrowed around and around, and so I was dutifully following the windrow and doing my job. And well, it was probably about 5:30 in the evening. We're still harvesting on this field, and it looked like the homeowner had just got home from work or whatever on one of these houses kind of on the far side. Woo, barely missed that flag. Now I've got to climb a hill. Well, so pretty soon I'm combining over there, and I see these streaks of water flying over the arborvitae hedge, coming out into the field, just going hither and yon, kind of randomly squirting all over the place. And I see this guy get up. He must have been on a step ladder. It was pretty tall, arborvitae hedge. And he looked like he was yelling. I couldn't hear him, because I was in this machine, right? And I was in a cab, so I couldn't hear what he was saying, but he just looked madder than a hornet. Shooting water everywhere. I was far enough away he couldn't reach me. So finally, I was curious enough, I stopped the machine and went over to see what was the matter. So I think I went over there. I said something like, can I help you, sir? And he wasn't even man enough to look at me over the fence. Maybe he was surprised that I came over there. I don't know. All he mumbled was something about, it's pretty dusty. And I'm like, yes, sir, it is. And he says, well, can you combine on the far side of the field? And I told him, well, I'll be over there in a little bit, but I can't really. I'm following, the windrow. I have to follow the windrow for when I harvest. And that's all I really remember about the conversation. Well, what could I do? I went back to work, and he probably called my boss, probably complained. I think I heard something about it later. My boss just kind of laughed it off and said, that's just part of the thing. So he didn't think anything of it. But I think that's some of the challenges you run into when other people move around your farm ground, and maybe they want the ambiance of the country, but the idea of actual barnyard odor or dust, is offensive to them, and I'm not sure why. You would think, I'll get it off of follow me. You would think that they chose to come out there, like this man here in his home. He chose to live right next door to a farm. What did he expect? Uh, must have expected something different. Don't know. But I am kind of looking forward to this particular field. It's a new one for me in here, kind of on this nice hill, and it's part of the reason I'm so far negative in the hole on my cash position. So I think we'll get going over here. It's already, let's see, what is that, 18607 in-game time. So I'll just get Mr. Combine going. And we'll begin thrashing in a new place. That always was something of interest on the farm as I think back on it. Periodically over the years, Lone Oak Farms would grow and pick up additional real estate, either that my uncles owned, or they would lease it from various landlords or what have you. And I was just a hired hand, but I'll be honest, it was exciting to have a different place to go, a new field to kind of learn its quirks and see all of its nooks and crannies and that kind of thing. And I don't know, just something new to look at. Not that I was bored, with what we had, but just some additional excitement. So, I guess I got a little bit of that. I get to harvest it for the first time. It too, when I bought it, was a open grass field, but one of the things the mapper did, just to make things all the more challenging, a good lot of the fields on here, this one happened to be arable. There's only a handful of them in the original map that are arable and ready to go as is. The rest are all grass fields, so if you want to grow something other than grass, you have to rip it up with a plow. And even grass, you're limited there because there's a particular foliage that you paint in the map editor so that grass grows in game. Well, kind of like just to the left of the tractor, you see that, how it's green, but there's no grass on a certain section? that's what Wes did on a lot of the fields. And I think the presumption was those fields had been grazed. You know, maybe they had sheep or cattle or something come in. And so there was no grass to be had. Well, the trouble is the grass never grows again. So if you get one of those fields, like the one I picked up, you know, field number 22. Oh, it was green all right, but there was no grass that I could harvest and try to take something off of first, you know, before I plowed it up to get a arable crop off it. So I'm speaking tongue in cheek here. I think that that's an interesting feature. I haven't seen any other maps do that. I mean, I think he wrote that right into the instructions for the in the maps manual, to where you gotta work a little bit harder. It reminds me of a map I know I spent a fair amount of time on in Farm Sim 15. I don't know how popular they were, but it was called the Hard Workin' Map series. I can't remember if it was European based or if it was a US based map, but a friend of mine and I, we put it on a dedicated server and had a lot of fun on it, and it was a lot of work. And when I say hard working, you had to first log and plow every field except for one on the map. So, at least on this map, you have to plow it, you know, if you want some of those other fields to do something other than grass. But at least you don't have any trees to peel off the fields. You know, this other one you had to take a whole bunch of logs off too. So I think eventually and we had multiple hiccups and starts. We eventually abandoned it and moved on to another map. But I've always kind of liked that concept. You know, some people that think the game becomes monotonous after a while, well, that gives you plenty of other things to do and helps you earn a little bit of money along the way to buy what you need. Let me see what's happening with my harvester. He's staying. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah, how about we get you move away from the edge? That's a long drop off. I'm gonna breaks my heart every time he negotiates a corner. He's incurring damage, which is gonna cost me money. Yeah, maybe when I plowed this, I was too aggressive and got too close to the edges. I don't know. There's always the potential for a... Ooh, yeah, that's right next to the fence line. All of which are hard objects and could stop the combine up. And I'm about full here. Can't really drive on the other side of the fence, so I'm gonna have to pull out into the crop. I know it's horrible. I will sneak around and find him here. You know, I've noticed I follow some videos of British farming, particularly a guy whose channel is called Harry's Farm. I think he has another channel called Harry's Garage. He's a car guy, but he also has a farm, and I've been just fascinated watching it, seeing kind of what the practices of British agriculture are and that kind of thing, seeing similarities and differences between them and in our country here. And one of the things I've noticed is they tend to have a grass pathway, if you will, kind of around the fields, or you know, basically the part that I'm driving on, if I was doing this according to what I've seen like in his videos, this would be all grass versus having it plowed up and, you know, have harvestable crop on it. Here in America, it seems like, you know, every square inch we can grab you know, of our property or what have you, we tend to put into cropland. But I've wondered, you know, sometimes if it's mandated that that's how they do it. It's part of an environmental program, maybe, to leave the borders of the field in grass, and maybe that helps with soil retention, runoff, whatever. I mean, there's probably any number of things before, you know, if there's chemical and rain and it gets out in that buffer zone, I suppose maybe that would help hold it there a little bit. Erosion control, just don't know. So I don't know if one of my British friends will ever see this. Like I say, I don't know if anybody will ever see this, except maybe my kids when I kick the bucket and they find their daddy's treasure trove of videos on here. Oh, look at that. He almost came back to the entrance, so we got around in. I'll be able to sneak him out and take another load up to sell and continue whittling away on my cash. I don't know where the time goes, but I think I'm already past another half an hour, so I think I'll just call it here. Thank you for everybody who watched, and I hope you have a nice evening. Take care. Bye-bye.